Hi everyone, thanks so much for joining us today. I'm coming live from Seattle and our mortgage support guy, Jared, is coming live from Nebraska. We'll start here in just a few minutes. I want to thank you all for taking the time to register and to attend our webinar today. We hope that it's extremely helpful and gives you some tips on reviews and some of the updates that we've made to our system. So as a reminder, some kind of housekeeping, if you have any questions, feel free to go down to that Q&A section at the bottom and type your questions in there. I'll be keeping track of those, and we'll also have a Q&A section at the end of the webinar, so we'll adjust some of those questions then. So I'm going to go ahead and do a little something different here. We're kind of doing video and screen share. So forgive me if it's a little shaky at first. It's my first time doing that, but I wanted to kind of incorporate a few different things in this webinar. So I'm going to switch over to screen share. There we go. So you should see Zillow Group Mortgages. I want to remind everybody that you can check out our Lender Academy and resource page. The link should be on your screen there. And if you have any questions or suggestions on upcoming webinars, you can reach out to my team at mortgagewebinars@zillowgroup.com. If you have any questions about your profile or reviews or anything like that, you can reach out to mortgagesupport@zillowgroup.com, and their email address is there as well. For those of you who may not be able to make the entire webinar today, you get cut out or have any issues with that, there will be a recording of our webinar available next week, so check out the Resource Center under webinars for that as well. For those of you who don't know who I am and are not familiar with our webinars, my name is Mary Weiss, and I'm in charge of the content on our mortgages sales team. And my job here is to provide resources for lenders like yourselves with both advertising and with our website and your profiles and everything of that nature. If you wanted to reach out to me directly, my contact information is there on your screen, so feel free to jot that down. I'm always happy to help. Never too busy to answer questions or even hop on a call if you need some additional help that way. And I'm going to kind of hand this over to Jared. He is our mortgage support specialist. So Jared, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, hey, thanks, Mary. My name is Jared Stauffer. I've been with Zillow for about a year and a half in the mortgage support role. I think a lot of you guys have, if you've been on these webinars before, have met our other teammates before, but we do support for you guys as lenders on the website, help you out with any questions that you have, help you out with your profiles, and we also help out your borrowers with any review questions and stuff that they have as well. So I'm born and raised in Lincoln, Nebraska. It's great that Zillow has an office here so we can help out you lenders from here as well as Seattle.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for the intro and for being here today. I'm really excited, as I said before, to give some tips and kind of dive into the support world and see what you guys are doing and what you guys are seeing in terms of FAQs, of frequently asked questions, and being able to address those each month in this recurring webinar series. So we were going to open up with some updates. We have made a couple of updates since the last time we did a webinar. Would you like to go over those?
Yeah, for sure. We're always taking feedback from our lenders and the borrowers who are submitting reviews and trying to make our website more intuitive and easier to use. And so one of the first things that we get a lot of questions about is from the borrowers how to edit their reviews. They might have accidentally clicked one of the wrong things in the survey for the review, or they had a typo, or they want to just update their review for new information that's come along. If they were doing a pre-qualification and now they actually did a purchase with you as the lender. And so we try to make it easy, but we came out with something else to make it even easier for them now. So after Beth, the buyer, submits a review for you, and then our moderation team has accepted that review and published it, we send them a message, an email, letting them know that it's been published. But that used to be all we used to send. Well, now on those emails, we're also having a button right there that allows them to edit the review. And I think Mary has a screenshot of that. So you guys
Yes,
can just kind
there.
of see what that's going to look like. So this will kind of be what the email will look like. You see there that white button there that says edit your review. Now we make it super easy for them to right away go in and make any edits. So as long as they know where this email is, they can always get there. Obviously, they can still edit their review the normal way as well, which is by navigating to your lender profile. First, they need to be logged into their consumer profile that they use to submit the review, because that's how obviously we know where the review came from. And once they go to your lender profile and see your lender list of reviews there, their review will be at the top of your list, and there's an edit button right there that they can click on. So then they can make all the edits, and then they just need to hit submit. When they do hit submit, it gets sent back into our moderation team. So it has to go through our standard moderation time frame as well, to be remoderated to make sure that the edits are still acceptable compared to our review guidelines. And then once it is, it'll be published to your profiles again.
Awesome. Well, thanks for giving that update. And I think this is really important to kind of go over because, you know, borrowers can go back in and add more details. And sometimes, you know, I know you guys do an awesome job with the moderation and making sure that the reviews are going to be helpful for other consumers. But sometimes borrowers change their minds, or they have more that they want to add, or maybe they come back to you as a lender and, you know, maybe they originally did a purchase, but then they came back and said, okay, I also did a refi, or I had some other service that I did with you, and they wanted to add some additional details on what it was like to work with you. And it's the same property, and they just have more insight. So it gives them that opportunity to go back in, or even fix like typos and mistakes and things like that. I'm sure we've all seen reviews where there's run-on sentences and there's no grammar, but you guys, as the moderation team, don't go in and edit those, right?
No, we are not able to edit the review itself. So when there's something that needs to be changed, if it doesn't pass our review guidelines, we return that review to the borrower in order for them to make those edits themselves. They are the only ones that can edit a review, whether it's for positive things or negative things or adding content, whatever it is. We do not change the content of the review itself. We're not even able to. So it's not on us to do that. It looks like sorry.
Go ahead.
We had a chat that came in that asked how long a review takes to be published. And our standard moderation time is 3 to 5 business days. It really can vary. A lot of times our moderation team is ahead of the game and they're getting those reviews published within a day or two. But our standard time is 3 to 5 days. So just in case, you know, we have a huge influx of reviews, things might get behind. You can expect it to be done within that time frame.
And one final point on why this update to having the borrower being able to go back and edit the review is also going back to negative reviews. This is a big deal. You know, I work with our business consultant team, and I used to have a book of business myself where I worked with lenders day in and day out, and that was a big concern. What happens if I get a negative review? Well, what happens if you do? You know, I think it's a great opportunity to go back and provide even better service to a client, and you can always turn that negative situation into a positive one. And with the borrower being able to go back in and edit that review, if you were able to make that situation better for them and they felt compelled to do this, they could go back in and edit the review and turn it into a positive one. So that's something that you can also message saying, you know, I hope I was able to resolve this issue for you. Now that it's resolved, would you care to go in and edit that review and talk about the experience overall and what kind of experience you've had now that we fixed this? And, you know, sometimes people are more than happy to do that. It just depends on the situation, but at least the option's there for them. I skipped ahead, so let's go back. So we were also going to go into password talk, kind of going over some tips and tricks in how to get back into your profile if you so happen to get locked out. So Jared, I'll let you lead with that.
Yeah, for sure. So a common question we get from lenders is, you know, they aren't able to get into the profile because they don't remember their password, especially if they haven't been on their profile for a while, or maybe it's a past company account and they're wanting to update the information. And so I'm sure many of you know, like on most websites, when you're on the sign-in page, you can click the forgot password link. And that's all we really need to do in order to get you to set up a new password. But the issues are sometimes you don't receive those emails, right? And so some of you might have had those issues in the past. So I wanted to kind of run down some of the options that you could do or what might be causing that. So first off, the most important thing is the email needs to be input correctly. So maybe try again, re-input the email, see if the email comes through this second time. Check your spam and junk folders as well, because a lot of times a no reply email will get sent to those locations. And then if you're still not seeing it there, go ahead and email us at mortgagesupport@zillow.com. And the next thing that it might be is you might be trying to get a password reset email to an email that's not actually associated to an account. We don't have, unfortunately, like an alert that tells you that there's no account for that email up front. It'll just look like it tried to send you something and you won't receive anything. So on our end in support, we're able to tell if you have an account. If you don't, then obviously you're not going to be receiving that reset password email. The next thing is if it's a work email, we see that a firewall at your work might be stopping our emails from coming in. And not all of our emails, you can still email us to mortgage support and we'll be able to communicate that way. But those no reply emails are where we find the issue. And so once again, email us mortgagesupport@zillow.com. After we try some of those other things, we might need to send you some whitelist information, it's called. It's for IP addresses. Pretty much not something that you should have to worry about. Just send it over to your IT department. They'll make sure everything checks out okay. And hopefully then you'll start receiving the emails. If none of that works, the last option we have is to change the email on your account to a more generic email, such as like a Gmail, a Yahoo. So if you have one of those, we can put that onto your profile. And then when we send the reset password email, there shouldn't be any firewall stopping our emails from going to those email addresses. So then you can get your email or your password changed, excuse me. And once that password is changed, now you know your password, we can leave that email on there for you. Or if you really need to have your work email on there, then we can put your work email back on. And since you remember the password from when you just changed it, you should be good to go. So there are a lot of things in there that it could be. Honestly, biggest thing is make sure you have the email address in there correctly when you're sending the reset password email. Make sure that you're checking your spam and junk folders. Next step, just email us. We'll walk you through the rest of it and help you out the rest of the way.
Well, does that actually happen too often where people have issues with their password resets?
I mean, it does. For the most common issue I see is that they don't actually have an account set up with that email address. They think that they created their old account with this certain email address, but either it was input incorrectly when they actually created the account, that's a possibility, or they just don't remember.
It's interesting. I never thought of that because I always think, oh, I'll just, email someone to help me if I can't get in, but usually I'm able to get in. I just didn't realize that there could be other issues with that. So thanks for kind of turning on the lights. As we say here at Zillow Group, it's one of our core values. We like to share information. So thanks for doing that. So we're going to go ahead and now transition a little bit and talk about what it's like for a borrower to submit a review. And this is something that I'm really excited about because Jared's going to show us a demo of how a borrower would go in and see that. So you guys can see it from their end, because if you try to do it yourselves, you're probably going to get some sort of error message saying that you're a professional and you can't leave a review for yourself. So we wanted to show that to you. And Jared's just getting his screen ready, so give him a second here. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to chat those in to the Q&A section, and we'll take a look at that. And in case you weren't aware, there is a poll that I launched a few minutes ago asking about some reviews. So if you haven't yet, go ahead and take a minute there to answer those questions, because that helps me to understand what kinds of issues that I need to address on content if we need to focus some webinar content around that, or articles or anything like that. So.
I'll just grab a lender profile straight from Zillow, and we'll walk through a random profile there. So Obviously, all you guys, hopefully you can see Zillow.com right now on my screen. Good. Okay, so first things first, the way that your your borrowers are going to find your lender profile is they're going to go to the mortgage tab and then the lender reviews page. While on that page, they can search by location or for your specific profile by your name. For this case, we're just going to use this one here, the first one on Lincoln's. So when they get to your profile, they're going to go right down here to write a review. So that's one way they can get there. Another way they can get there is if you send them an email that takes them directly to your profile page to write a review. And that's the review link, which you can get by going to Lender Hub and then to the reviews tab. So if you guys ever want to figure out how to do that and you're not sure, just email us at mortgage support and we can walk you through that as well. Well, let's get in there as the borrower. So I'm not logged into a profile right now. So I'm going to click on write a review. And immediately, we're going to ask that borrower to either sign into their account or create a new account. We require all reviews to come from a Zillow profile to ensure that we can communicate with them and that we can track where reviews are coming from. So I'm just going to log in here. Ooh, got a period. So this is a consumer profile that I have, so that's why it allowed me to log in here. And so right away now we're in here ready to write the review. So this is the first thing that they're going to see. How likely are they to recommend this lender? And this is where we get our star rating from. So you got not at all likely, unlikely, and as so on, extremely likely. They'll see exactly what kind of star rating they're going to be giving you based on those choices. Next up is some of the most important part of the review itself. It's going to be the content. So first, you got your review headline. So this is like a subject line in a email. So should maybe give a brief overview of your experience, had a great experience, something like that. And then that's it. The next is the content of the review. This is where we are looking for them to give us plenty of detail about their experience working with you. So did the loan close on time? Did they had their answers questioned quickly? Pretty much anything and everything they want to say. And so we do have a minimum character limit, minimum characters of 150. So that doesn't mean they can't write more. We just require a certain amount. We get some confusion on that sometimes. So I'm not going to try to write a review here real quick. We're just going to do this just for the purposes of moving on. As you can see, that character limit changes until we're good to go. Now at this point, I can continue writing if I want to, but they've at least met the minimum requirement, so they can move on at this point. Next up is the date or the transaction date. So I did this purchase with this lender back in August of 2017. And then we asked them what kind of transaction they did. As soon as you click on one of these, for instance, like home purchase, as you can see, the submit button's down there right now. Oops, my computer's freaking out. As soon as I click on home purchase, some additional optional fields are added as well. And so that'll go on as we click on more options here. Completed my loan. A couple more questions pop up because now we want to find out a little bit more information. And these questions we actually have found to be, for some reason, a little tricky sometimes. So this is actually going to be changed down the road to hopefully reflect better what the experience of the borrower. So what I mean by that is, how is your interest rate? Some people see higher and they're like, oh, I'm giving this guy everything great, right? 5 stars. So they're like, higher, yeah, everything was great. But that's actually not what they were wanting to say. They really probably wanted to say lower than expected or expected. And so we've seen some confusion with that. So just so you know, if you have reviews where when the review is posted, that wording will be in red, higher than expected. It's possible if it's on a 5-star review that your borrower actually meant lower than or as expected. And so that is something that they can edit by going into that edit review and going from there. All right, we'll just go through the rest of it pretty quickly here. The rest of it's just questions that we asked them to fill out, and then the zip code of where the transaction took place or where your property is. And then these are optional, and then you're just gonna hit submit, and that's pretty much it. So that's kind of what it looks like. Those are the questions we ask. Obviously, if they're filling these things out, you're seeing that on the review anyways. The biggest hiccups we find are that borrowers will say to you lenders that, hey, I fill out a review, but like you lenders don't see it anywhere. And that's because they probably didn't actually create a profile. And so on that page where it asked me to log in, I just signed in, but if you click on new account, it's going to take you to another screen, like another tab up here. And so it has you create the account, but then they need to go back over to this tab to finish doing the review, or they need to go and click on your review link again to write a new review and sign in. So that's kind of where the confusion comes in because of that new tab. But yeah, so hopefully that gives some clarification on the reviews and what we're looking for in the survey.
Well, I think, we have a question from Bryce in our audience, and Bryce is asking, are husband and wife allowed to leave separate reviews, or can they only post one review from their location?
Yeah, that's a great question, and especially because our policies have actually changed over time on that. So our policy right now is that, yes, they can both leave a review for the same transaction. They do have to be from different Zillow profiles, though, created with unique email addresses, right? They each have to have their own email address. The other really important thing from their two reviews is we think it's a bad experience for a consumer coming to your profile page to possibly work with you and reading your reviews and seeing two duplicate reviews that look exactly the same. So even though it's the same transaction and those two people probably had the same experience, we want to see some unique content in there. So it can't just be a copy paste of each other. We won't accept that. And so our moderation team will send back feedback. Hey, we don't allow duplicate reviews. Please give some added feedback or change your review so it's not exactly the same as another one that was submitted.
So to kind of go back, because you showed the review once they go to submit it, but nothing after that. So what happens? What does the borrower see after they submitted? So they get an email. What are they seeing? Yeah,
they'll receive an email that it was submitted, but the most important email is after it's been moderated by our review team. Obviously, if it's published, they get that email that we showed earlier that shows, hey, it's been published. Here where you can edit it as well. The next, though, they'll also receive email notifications if a review was returned or rejected, as some people call it. In those emails, we give them specific feedback on like why it's being returned and usually what they can do in order to make those changes. Some of the feedback can be a little ambiguous, and that's more so on the technical side of things. It's not because of their content. It's sometimes possibly because of fraud or because of like our technical checks didn't go through properly. And so we can't verify where the review is being submitted from. And so it's kind of hard to explain all that to them. So we're just like, hey, your review didn't meet our review guidelines. It didn't pass our technical checks. Please resubmit. The best thing for them to do in those situations, if they don't know how to or what they need to change, have them email us, mortgagasupport@zillow.com. We are here to help you guys get reviews. And so we will do everything in our power to help your borrower get their review submitted.
So that, I hope, answers one of the questions that we had come in about why one of their borrowers' reviews are constantly rejected and they're not sure why. So I think probably the best thing would be for them to have their borrower reach out to you guys directly and kind of figure it out, right? Yep,
exactly. If for some reason our response to them from our moderation team is too vague or they don't understand it, just give us an email. Me and Jess are on Zendesk answering those tickets, usually within an hour's time frame, if not a lot quicker. So,
Yeah, and then given the weekends, that's where we account for up to 72 business hours, so, and holidays and things like that. So
Yep.
Amy in our audience was asking about review verification, and she's talking here about an agent who had a bogus review and couldn't get it removed. I do think it's important to note that our mortgages side has its own very unique team that does moderation and support. The agent side is its own entity. They have their own review, moderation teams, and support teams, so they're completely separate. So we can't really answer to why the agent side would be any different, although I would assume that the moderation guidelines are fairly similar between both of our organizations. You have any thoughts on that, Jared?
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, they are different, but they are similar in the same sense where we have moderation tools that our development team here at Zillow has created for us that checks a lot of things for us to help prevent fraudulent reviews from coming through. And so in this case, a bogus review that might have come through, they're saying that it's most likely a negative review. Those are normally the ones that we hear that from, where they're saying this wasn't actually a client. They might be trying to hurt my business, whatever it is. Every single review, positive, negative, for a lender that isn't doing advertising with Zillow or a lender that is, goes through the exact same moderation process. And so we do all those checks to make sure that it is a legitimate email address, it's coming from a legitimate source, and then the most important thing, that the content in there is not is meeting our review guidelines. I won't go through all of those right now, but and so if you do get a negative review, and it can be tough because you might know that it is not coming from a legitimate client, but there's nothing in the review that shows our moderation team that. We still have to allow that. We can't ask every single lender and borrower to provide. First off, we don't want those transaction details and stuff like that, or emails with personal information, and we can't ask for that for every single review. I mean, we have thousands of reviews coming in, and so that's not part of our policy. I can assure you, though, that we do everything in our power to ensure that a review is legitimate and the content in it is showing an actual experience that someone is having.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks for kind of going more into that. I hope that answers your questions. I am going to launch a poll here because I am realizing that we have just about 2 minutes left. So if you have any additional questions and want to follow up, feel free to say yes to this, and we'll make sure that someone reaches out to you to go over your questions with you. The final point that we wanted to touch on very quickly, if we can, was what happens if you come across some sort of error message. So I'm going to go ahead and give you an idea of one of those random error messages that you might see with error fetching data. So do you have any quick tips on what, or kind of to go over what I have here on the slide? Any quick tips on that?
Yeah, for sure. So this error message you'll normally see when you're trying to go to your profile page. And this is really just telling you that it's not loading properly. And so your browser needs to most likely be refreshed. So one thing you can do is log out of your profile, log back in, see if that helps. If that doesn't, then the thing you're going to want to do is clear your internet browser cookies and cache, or try another browser completely. So we recommend using Google Chrome as your internet browser. And it's very simple to clear your cache. You'll go up to the top right to the options, and then go to either history or to more tools. And then there's literally under more tools, it says clear browsing data. And just make sure you have the top 4 boxes checked. I know that doesn't tell you much, but it's pretty much telling cache, cookies, all that kind of stuff. And then make sure you clear it to the beginning of time. It's kind of funny saying it like that, but you don't want to do just a week or a day. Clear it all, make sure it's completely refreshed. Once that happens, re-log into your profile page and you should be good to go. If you're getting like an error message that is like a 404, 405, something like that, that's more of a Zillow page is down, and it should be back up shortly. So But this fetching data error is just on your end, so the browser needs to be refreshed.
And then, of course, if you have any trouble with that or need any additional assistance, you should see the email address up here, mortgagesupport@zillowgroup.com. You can reach out to Jared and his team for additional assistance. And then, of course, we're out of time, so I want to thank everyone for joining us today. I realize that we have some additional questions and chats that we couldn't get to unfortunately, in this live session, but feel free to indicate yes on that poll. And again, we'll have someone reach out to you shortly to make sure those questions are answered. So thanks so much, everybody, for your time, and I hope you all have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time. Bye.